Thank you for taking some time to sit with us today. My name is Brooke Frischemeier. I'm head of product management. We're going to talk about Google Distributed Cloud Connected Server and Rakuten Cloud Native Storage and how those fit together. So hopefully at this point in time, you're all aware that there is an edge transformation going on. There are a lot of companies moving things out of the cloud and they're moving them on-prem, even if they are still connected to the cloud. And we're doing that for a number of reasons. We realize that we need faster decision making at the edge. For stuff I like to call, if it doesn't work right, it's going to kill you. So for instance, a good example of that would be in manufacturing or any place where people are dealing with anything hazardous. Now, when people think about moving to the edge, a lot of times they're concerned about cost, which makes a lot of sense. And they're looking at cost savings because there can be some cost savings there because the cloud isn't the most inexpensive option. But what they should really be looking at is the fact that it's about driving more business with better services. Or if you work for the government, it's about driving more services directly to your consumer so you can optimize the rest of your resources at any branch or any large building that's not affiliated with the cloud. Another reason why we're seeing this is for security and compliance. So later I'm going to go through a couple verticals that we've been targeting. And all of these have strict regulatory compliance, data governance, and they need to be auditable. So there's a number of reasons that we're moving to the edge. And of course, the latest one that everybody and their mother is talking to you about today, some sort of AI. And we can see with smaller models why moving them to the edge makes a lot of sense. So there's a great solution for this because when you're moving from the edge, you're going from having, 1, 2, maybe 3 data centers, for some kind of backup. You're going to tens, hundreds, thousands. And as we'll show you, some customers, we have 10,000s of data centers, right? Because technically, even if it's a little store, it's still a data center. It has an infrastructure. So you need something that's going to be easy to use, that you can rapidly deploy, and you sure as heck need to know that it's ready for AI when it's coming. So that's Google Distributed Cloud Connected Server. That's Google's on-prem solution where they give you a complete hardware and software stack. And that includes some AI goodness, monitoring and logging. If you want to connect it back to the cloud for backups, you can do that, but you don't have to do that, right? Now, it allows you to focus on then is just running your apps, creating your services where they can manage all the rest. So why are you at this booth, and what does Rakuten Cloud have to do with any of this? Well, we make the software-defined storage layer that they use that's completely integrated development, security, billing, troubleshooting. Because this is a hyper-converged solution. Because you do not want a big giant SAN at the edge of your network. It has its own networking protocols, it has its own data protocols, and they're not really cloud native. They're not really a build-as-you-go type of solution. And again, that's what you want, and that's why hyper-converged is so popular at the edge. Now, what can this whole solution bring to you? So, like I said, since the whole stack comes to you and you don't need all of that expertise to build it and maintain it, it's going to reduce the complexity and it's going to allow you to iterate and innovate faster because you're focused on your services, not everything else that's associated with them. It's going to enable to optimize your resources, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but because of how Google Kubernetes works, because of how our software-defined storage does, it's going to allow you to pack the most number of applications with the requisite performance into a small given space. Last is, it's going to grow as you do. Since it's hyper-converged, you can simply add nodes. They come up instantly, they're auto-discovered, they're completely integrated into software-defined storage where it can build software resource pools for you on storage. So why did Google choose Rakuten CNS for this solution? So when you go, if you go to things like KubeCon, where you've got a lot of people talking about storage, they all talk about how they're built from the ground up to do cloud native storage. And 99% of them, that's all nonsense. All right. So what they've done is they've usually taken 10, 15-year-old solution they've got, they put some APIs in, they put a new coat of paint on it, and they call it cloud native. It's not really cloud native. It's not built for Kubernetes. or they build a solution based off of a legacy file system that was designed, again, 10, 15 years before Kubernetes came about. So we actually built ours from the ground up. We didn't use any strange open source, any legacy solution. So what we can do better than others is we have high performance, and we had to beat a lot of them in bake-offs to win that. But what the really pleasant surprise is, as you add nodes and as you scale, so does our performance. We don't have bottlenecks that other solutions have. Our auto discovery mechanism makes it so you can build and grow on the fly. You don't have to rebalance, you don't have to rejigger anything, right? And these next four features you hear have to do with application awareness, which is something that that we innovated on originally. We're in the forefront of all of that. And what that gives you is optimal resource utilization. Automated policies that when your applications move, so does your storage. It's tracked there. We have flexible resource pooling, right? And another thing we have is per application lifecycle replication. So why is that a big deal? Well, first of all, at the edge, we don't expect everybody to have the brand new containerized application. A lot of people are still running VMs, both of which you can run on this solution, and they're sweating their assets. I may have some higher priority applications that I want, higher replication, maybe 5-way replication, or maybe I want 3-way replication. I may have some legacy applications that were built before a lot of these technologies that actually do their own replication. And with a lot of other software-defined storage solutions, you can't do per volume replication. You can't do per application replication. All you can do is set an application or replication policy based at the node level or maybe the pod level. And what that means now is if I have a gigantic data center, that's not terrible. But when I am essentially, you want to think of your edge as always on the verge of resource starved, right? You want to get the most out of it. And when you can do things per application, it allows you to pack the most number of applications with the least amount of overhead, and you have the highest performance. And last but not least, we have IOPS throttling, where you can have shared resources among applications, but you can throttle their quality of service, their IOPS, to make sure one application never clobbers another. So I've been talking a lot about data. So whether it's GDC connected server, whether it's moving to edge or it's moving AI to the edge, you move to the edge because of data. Data is the most important resource you're going to have at the edge, not just because you're sitting here with a guy talking about software-defined storage. If you didn't need your local data, if you didn't want to do AI based off of local data, if you didn't want to make local data decisions that were mission critical, you wouldn't need to be at the edge. So that's why you need a high performance, stable, very scalable, customizable resources. A complete software-defined storage platform works on hyper-converged auto discoveries like Rakuten Cloud native storage. And by the way, we also sell this separately. All right. So what are some of the things that you'll be able to do? So again, we talked about you'll be able to make local decisions. And again, local decisions do not just mean at a branch office. For instance, one of the customers we'll talk about at the end, they do things regional. They have tons and tons of regional data centers where you can make quick decisions on regional data. You're going to be able to create new services, and you're going to have custom experiences. The example that I've been giving today is a custom experience. Let's take Starbucks. And some of these services have been around, but there were some game changers for a while. When you walk by Starbucks, everybody and their mother is in that line. I don't know what would make somebody wait in that line to drink some brown water. However, if you go on your Starbucks app, they know what you like, right? They'll make you recommendations. As if this guy has a sweet tooth and I've got like a pumpkin spice banana candy apple latte, I'm gonna sell it to this guy because he's gonna eat it up. And another service that they pioneered in their industry was the online pickup, right? So customized services make an absolute huge business in your ability to retain and bring new customers. Another big one that we've alluded to early is business continuity. I don't know what it's like where you all are, but where I live, at least once a year, I walk into a store and their computer's down. And being the man that I am, I ask them about that. And, what it really turns out is their network's down, their computer system's not down, right? So they lost my business that day. Think of all the times, for those of you who work in a city, you had to eat some lunch, you had a short amount of time, you're walking by the restaurants, or, you're at the airport trying to catch a plane. It's like, I'm not going there, I'm not going there, I'm not going there. And I end up eating somewhere crappy just because there's a short line, right? So things like predictive failure maintenance based on my local data and overall business continuity is a big one. And last but not least, we talked about this one before, streamline operations. And that helps you create new services, right? Because if you're not managing tens of thousands of data centers, it means your people can be more focused on creating those services that retain customers and pull the customers. And we're actively engaged across of all these sectors. Retail, whether it's quick service restaurant, fast moving commercial goods, banking, finance and insurance, public sector, manufacturing and healthcare. And we've used some retail examples today, but the thing that we want to talk about that we make sure is data sovereignty is a big deal. Being auditable, having secure data where people can't just come in off the internet and get it is a big thing for all of these. They all have, you can name all the different acronyms about all the different standards bodies or all of the different certifications you have to get. We talked about things in public sector and manufacturing. Heard me use the phrase before, you need real-time decision making because stuff there can kill you, right? So another big thing for edge networks. So last but not least, here's examples of some customers that we've partnered on with Google that use our software-defined storage. Very large U.S. grocery store in the East Coast. Everybody's retail food chain of choice. You can go on to Google to find out more about that customer, but they're massively changing the way they do business from in-store coupons. And another thing that we see in retail is just-in-time delivery, making sure you have automated supply chain management, right? And last but not least, we have an online betting solution that is GDC connected servers, largest deployment of vCPUs, where those are regional all over the country, right? So fast, easy to use, scalable. You don't need the expertise. So easy your mother can do it. So if you get a chance, you look at some of those on-prem solutions at the Google booth, talk to our people more, go with Google Distributed Cloud, do Google Distributed Cloud connected server, and we can talk more about Rakuten Cloud native storage.